I'm going to be walking through your paper in this video. Okay, the question for this essay is, how many nurses further their career to become doctors? I've learned that nowadays it is very common for nurses to want to switch over to become doctors. Some enjoy having the control over the patient care in their team. Medical schools are more accepting than they were 10 years ago. Wait, what? Some enjoy having control over the patient care in their team. And then you have this other thought, I think. Medical schools are more accepting. I feel like maybe that just needs to be its own sentence, because that also seems important. Some medical schools count your prerequisites done if you've already been through nursing school. The MCAT and the NCLEX, which are the tests you take to become a nurse or doctor, are very similar in the way they both focus less on real-world situations and more on textbook learning. Interesting. To become a nurse, you must take 2 years of general education courses, then 2 years of nursing school. After nursing school, you take a test that is called the NCLEX. Once you pass the test, you are officially a nurse. For doctors, the path looks very different. You start with 4 years of college, usually in a pre-medical field, then 4 years of medical school. You have to do a residency, but it varies for different specialties. After residency, you can continue with a fellowship anywhere from 1 to 3 years. This is adding on 6 or more years of schooling to obtain your doctorate. Medical schools say, quote, you need a comma right there to set up your quote. There's usually some kind of punctuation right before a quote, unless it just becomes a part of your sentence, which isn't happening here, because you're doing it. They say, pause, we are now more open to people with nursing experience as long as you haven't been a nurse for longer than 5 years. After that, you are too indoctrinated. Wow, okay. Whew. This is because you will see the medical world from a nurse's point of view instead of a doctor's point of view. Oh yeah, I get it. That sounds like, I don't think that's cool. That's just me. Okay, so we have a lovely start here. We've gotten into the education stuff. One tiny thing left on this page is that when you say from a nurse's point of view, it needs to be nurse apostrophe S. And a doctor's point of view, it needs to be doctor apostrophe S. Because those belong to them, right? Those points of view belong to them. And in English, we do this completely insane thing of using apostrophe S's for possession, in addition to using them for other reasons. I wish I could fix that. Okay, there's a stigma around nurses becoming doctors. The stigma we received from our nursing mentors who felt that we were turning our backs on nursing. Let's see, there's a stigma around nurses becoming doctors. So the part I would want to directly quote is that turning our backs part. The rest of that sentence, I think, would be smoother if you put it in your own words. But the fact that the exact way it feels is that they're turning their back on nursing is an important thing and a good thing to quote. So I might do something like, okay, there's a stigma around nurses becoming doctors, period. In one study, or something like that, nurses reported that trying to become a doctor was viewed by their mentors as turning their backs on, I don't know, something like that. See, that wasn't great, but I think you can make it better. Because as it is now, you just kind of have a sentence, and then you throw in another sentence, and it's just kind of sitting there. You gotta like connect with everything. Many nurses that further their career to be doctors say they're motivated by their nursing career because it helped them realize their career goals. According to this article, there is a sort of turf war between doctors and nurses for the American public. I have a friend who's a nurse, so I'm on team nurse. What can I say? It's also about nurses who become too cocky and act like the doctor, which then sets off a chain reaction and can cause an awkward tension between the two careers, especially when nurses are right and doctors are wrong. So I've heard. The author of the article, Jason Long, encourages nurses that want to further their career to do so and not worry about the stigma or politics that fall into play behind switching paths. Interesting. So, yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to say about that. I think that sounds good. When nurses choose to further their career, many become nurse practitioners over doctors. I have a friend who did that too. A nurse practitioner can do more things medically than a nurse can, but does not have all the privileges that doctors have. Nurse practitioners are becoming more popular. Openings for NPs would grow 36% between 2016 and 2016. Okay, so for this one, when you're setting up your quote, nurse practitioners are becoming more popular. You can do a colon. There's 2 dots. Where are they? They're above the semicolon, which you don't ever need to worry about. But if you put a colon there, you're saying, I'm about to explain this. Give a definition. I'm about to, like in the dictionary, they might use a colon. Or I'm about to list some information for you. That's exactly what you're going to do. Nurse practitioners are becoming more popular, colon. Now I'm explaining. Openings would grow between blah, blah. Doctor's average salary. Well, there's your apostrophe. Apostrophes are so stressful. Doctor's average salary is anywhere from $70K to $200K per year, while nurse practitioners make an average of $74K to $145K a year. These rates are very competitive and enticing since becoming a nurse practitioner only adds an extra 2 years of schooling. It would make sense for more nurses to become NPs based on these statistics, but again, nurses like the control that doctors have and the personal relationships that come with doctor-patient confidentiality. Whoa, they do? I'm so interested in this part. You going to talk more about that? Nurses like the control doctors have. Yeah, I'd like to hear more about that. I just feel like they have different kinds of control, but I don't know. I don't know anything about this. And the personal relationships with doctor-patient confidentiality. Wow, I've never thought about that, and I'm so curious. Like, what's the relationship between a nurse and the patient? I don't know. Questions maybe for another paper. Okay, how many nurses further their career to become doctors according to my... Wait, how many nurses further their career to become doctors? Question mark? According to my research, more nurses in the past 10 years have furthered their career to become doctors. While the number of nurses to MDs has increased, so has the number of NPs. It is more common for nurses to further their careers as NPs because the pay is better. It's only an additional 2 years of schooling, and you have more medical privileges than regular nurses would. But as Jason Long said... Oh, wait. All this stuff you're saying about 10 years and it's increased, we need to know where you got that information. That is not common knowledge. It is something that you need to, you don't have to directly quote it, but you need to reference where you got this information. Because when you go into, but as Jason Long said, it doesn't sound like Jason Long is the one who gave you this info. There are many stigmas about changing career path, but nurses can help you find your career path to becoming a doctor. If a nurse is thinking about taking on the workload of switching, they should consider the pros and cons, and it would be more beneficial to become a nurse practitioner. It would? Oh, the workload. Taking on the workload. You should consider the pros and cons. And okay, and if it would become, sorry, that was totally me. And if it would be more beneficial to become. Gotcha. Okay. So maybe this is APA? You need to look back at the rules for doing a works cited page, I think. You may have done everything totally right in a format that I'm not familiar with. That's possible. But it's also possible that you didn't. Okay, because you start with title and then where you got it. The order of things seems correct. In MLA style, you don't do that source 1, source 2, source 3. I think you're doing one that's medical. Okay, yeah, see, I'm not an expert in all of them. What can I tell you? So, yeah, if you know what you're doing, do that. I hope that helps give you some ideas for revising your paper. I enjoyed it. It's very interesting.